Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you could join us to our PPM Value Map and Solution Overview session today. This is one of our webinars in our budget saving series this year, here in 2021. Wanted to first provide you with a brief overview of our agenda today, and then introduce our host and co-host that we have joined us here today. So from an agenda perspective, we'll be doing introductions. So Jason Daly with ServiceNow. He's our co-host, and he is an account manager in Hawaii. And so he'll be introducing himself shortly. I'll provide a brief introduction. And our focus here is going to be on our continuing series around ways to find budget, ways to save cost in a tumultuous environment. And so our really focus today is going to focus on how do we optimize our project investments, the associated value and business results related to that. I'm going to do that by starting off with showing our portfolio management value map. We're going to talk about ways you can increase value through strategic and planning, talk about resource utilization and the right sizing of your financial investments, as well as then looking at delivery performance and how you can drive and increase and accelerate time to value. And then we'll highlight at the very end just our upcoming sessions here in our series around accelerating customer value with customer service management, as well as enhancing employee engagement with the human resources solution. So Jason, would you mind just providing a brief introduction? And we really appreciate you co-hosting the session with us today.
Yes, thank you, John. Aloha all. Nice to talk to you again. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Jason Daly. I'm the account executive for ServiceNow covering the Hawaiian Islands. And we really have seen a lot of value derived for ServiceNow customers using the Now platform and partnered with the service delivery of ResultsPositive. So this has been a very good alliance with a lot of positive outcomes for our local customers here. So happy to participate.
Thanks so much, Jason. We do appreciate your partnership here and hosting with us. First of all, those of you that haven't been introduced to ResultsPositive before, we're a partner with ServiceNow. They're our strategic go-to-market partner. And what we really focus on is really helping an organization get the value out of their software investments, but more importantly, help them achieve their personal as well as organizational goals and objectives. So really looking at the business value. What's the business value that you're driving, or how can we help you accelerate or increase that business value? And we do that through our various service offerings via assessments and roadmaps to actual implementations, whether that be training services or managed services, as well as any type of custom application development. So we're really excited to have everyone here on our call today. So I want to start off here with the value map. So this is what we see as some of the core areas that organizations are able to drive value using ServiceNow's project portfolio management solution. And as we mentioned before, our focus every day is on how we can help customers maximize their outcomes, both personally as well as organizationally. And so we do that by identifying and really focusing on business growth, operational efficiencies, as well as looking for cost reduction opportunities. As part of our budget saving series, we've established these value maps based on our experience helping many customers with the ServiceNow implementations. So we see a couple of key strategic goals and objectives around increasing that strategic business value, growing and creating business value in the organization. And so that's one of the core strategic objectives. We then map that over into the associated goals. So looking for ways to increase investments and strategic value generating initiatives. What we find a lot, especially in IT organizations, is a lot of times they're accepting all of the requests coming in versus having a value-based approach to identify, let's invest in those that are going to generate the best value. Especially what we've experienced over the last year, where everyone has had to have the digital imperative to either now have delivery and carry out services for a restaurant or for a university. Everything needs to be online and remote. So they need to be able to make sure they're investing in those areas versus investing in other items that might have been important a month ago, a quarter ago. So it's really important to make sure we're shifting and spending and maximizing our investments in those strategic initiatives. And then item number 2, looking for ways to stop investing in unnecessary initiatives. So I've seen over time that that's an area that organizations don't accomplish a lot, but having the right focus on governance and having the right focus around value-based portfolio management can really help organizations to stop making some of those investments. Think of it as you're managing your own personal investment portfolio. Yes, you're going to invest in some that are high risk but high value, and some that are really to maintain and provide a consistent return. However, some of those high risk items or even some of those maintaining items might not fit in terms of your overall goals and objectives, and so you easily can stop making those investments. It can be a little bit more difficult internally in an organization, but taking that same mindset that just because we initiated a project 6 months ago, maybe that technology is no longer needed, or maybe the actual industry has leapfrogged over that particular technology. So it's important to make sure that we stop investing in certain initiatives. So that's a key area to help drive additional savings and benefits to the organization. Next, if we come over here and look at the objective around optimizing our delivery performance, really kind of protecting those investments that we've decided to invest in. Those strategic investments, we want to protect those. We want to make sure that we can deliver those items quickly. So we align that to the overall goal of increased speed to market, time to value. We want to also focus on improved on time, on budget performance. Really, that's key on protecting that investment. We've decided to make that investment over a specific period of time, and we're expecting to start getting returns after that investment. So it's really important to make sure that we have that strong delivery and we can protect those investments. And as part of that process, we want to optimize our resource utilization as well as our financial benefits and returns. So we need to look for ways to track those benefits so that we can look at that overall benefit realization. At the same time, we need to make sure that we're fully utilizing our resources. And that's really key because a lot of organizations at the high level, they can identify their strategies and their strategic roadmaps. But then a lot of times it becomes issues around having the right people to actually deliver. And so having that visibility into resource availability and utilization can help you protect that investment, as well as help to ensure that those outcomes can be delivered to your stakeholders, whether they be external stakeholders or internal stakeholders to the organization. The next area here is reducing administration burdens. So when we talk about managing projects, we talk about managing portfolios and resources. That can typically always come across as that's administrative activities we need to perform, and that is correct. But we want to look for ways to streamline those efforts and reduce those burdens as much as possible, and look for ways to save time and effort, i.e. dollars. And that way we can actually shift some of our operational activities and operational spend to that higher value strategic value generating opportunities. So we can look for ways to streamline and automate our planning and our delivery processes, whether that be automating our portfolio, program, and project status reporting, whether that be looking at ways to automate that demand intake process, automate some of our ideation processes. So we can look for ways to do some of that automation that's going to make things much more efficient for the organization. The end result here, and we can kind of see the alignment here with our overall value map, is really looking at these various outcomes. So these outcomes are a result of some of these initial goals and strategic objectives, and some of these are an actual combination outcome across the different strategic goals and objectives. So looking for ways to increase business growth, revenue growth, or cost savings. Based upon the current strategy of the organization, if it's all about driving that overall remote learning capabilities, and that's going to really help us drive growth, then we need to make sure that we focus on the technologies and the processes and the people needed to provide those products and services. And if we can do that quicker than the competition, then we can increase our growth and we can increase our revenue. At the same time we're doing that, we might need to discontinue, retire, sunset of various products, services, and applications, thereby driving additional cost savings. Or we just need to stop various projects in flight, take that savings and apply it to those strategic initiatives. At the same time, we're going to save resource capacity. We can now reapply that to focus on business growth and revenue. Ultimately, organizations, whether it be the C-suite or whether it be VPs and directors, they're looking for ways to optimize the achievement of those strategic objectives. And so that's really key. That's one area that we found that members of the C-suite, the COO as well as the CIO, getting the visibility that you can receive within ServiceNow across all work types, as well as you can get visibility into where are we investing our funds when it comes to strategic investments? What are our people working on? How much are we spending? Do we have any overruns? Those are some common questions that executives need to understand, and ServiceNow helps provide that visibility. In terms of protecting those investments, and from an outcome perspective, we want to avoid project delays and budget overruns. We know those things are going to impact our overall bottom line of the organization, but it's also going to impact the amount that we can actually invest in our strategic initiatives. We want to reduce those overall delivery and administrative costs using automation and workflow to reduce those costs. Overall, we want to increase the efficiency and the utilization of our employees. If they're more efficient, we can reduce cost, but then we can also have them focus on more value generating, more exciting projects and initiatives in the organization. So this is kind of our high level value map. And so what we're going to do next is kind of walk you through a brief overview of ServiceNow, and then we're going to jump into each one of these strategic areas here and highlight solutions and highlight where you can actually achieve some of that savings and uncover some of that budget saving opportunity. So when we look at project portfolio management from a ServiceNow perspective, right, it's all about maximizing business value and accelerating that time to value. And so within ServiceNow, we can look at that demand management function. Now that function can also start at the ideation phase. So you can start managing ideas, do ideation, even start to getting in some of your product management capabilities. However, most organizations start more at the demand management phase when it comes to strategic planning. They need to understand what is needed to invest, what is the business case, what are the resource requirements, what are the financial requirements, so we can get that funding and approval as part of that demand process. Once we have those demands coming in, we've established a business case, then we can start looking at alignment of those particular items. How does it align to those strategies? We can start looking at ranking those projects, prioritizing those, and really looking at the overall benefit and return. So if we do it from a more value-centric approach, we're going to really focus on those projects going to drive the value. We're going to focus on those projects as our big rock items that we want to focus on. And so that way we'll be able to put together our overall strategic portfolio as part of our portfolio planning. We can also then tap into the capabilities to start doing some what-if scenario planning and really maximizing the value of the organization while also getting visibility into our in-flight projects and when those projects are planned to be completed. And then when we look at it from a delivery perspective, this is another key area of ServiceNow, and it provides a lot of value to organizations because of the power of the platform. So here within ServiceNow, all on one native solution, you can manage your traditional waterfall projects, your agile projects, your safe projects, as well as your hybrid projects, all in one solution. And so that provides tremendous value. What we found in most organizations, they're typically operating in a hybrid fashion mode. They might have pockets of doing agile. They could have more maturity in them doing a skilled agile framework. But typically the executives and the PMO is still typically having to report up around how much is it going to cost, what are benefits going to be, how many resources do we need. And so it requires that hybrid approach of reporting up on what our planned costs are, planned benefits, but at the same time then being able to allow teams to execute in their execution method of choice. So whether it be waterfall or agile or safe, and then that way we can accelerate that time to value, but at the same time provide visibility to executives, so they're making those strategic decisions. They know which projects to stop, which ones to accelerate to get the achievement and attainment of strategic objectives. Underlying that end-to-end process, we would then want to manage and have visibility into status, into all the project controls, so we can protect that investment, as well as we want to understand resources and our resource constraints, our budgets, our financial constraints, because we want to really monitor and track those precious investments. We also talked about strategically aligning to overall strategies. You can actually set up your overall enterprise and business unit strategies. So the end to end here is to start off by understanding the demands and the opportunities, prioritizing, categorizing those items, and really allowing the business through visibility to start to say no. We don't want to try to say yes to everything. We want to focus on those things that are value added. Once we have that smaller list of value added demands or project proposal requests, we can then bring them into our strategic planning process. We're also seeing many organizations that are not just doing annual planning, they're moving towards a quarterly planning, monthly planning, because they need to be more nimble and they need to respond in a very fast fashion with the market trends and changes. So we're seeing that happen. And so as a part of the portfolio management, we can look at those top value added opportunities combined with what we currently have in our portfolio and make those decisions to really drive value. So that's kind of a high level overview, and we'll provide you with some screenshots and some overviews of the capabilities as we go forward. So the first section I want to focus on is this whole idea of improving strategic business value. And two key areas there around strategic portfolio planning as well as with demand management. I spent many years doing a large IT transformation work for Accenture, and those were two key areas that we focused in on when we were looking at transforming organizations and providing overall tangible results. So overall, what we're focusing on here is looking at what are we doing around investment planning? That's that portfolio management. Also, ServiceNow has the ability for you to do that top-down investment funding. So if you have that focus in your organization, it's more of an advanced function, but you can start looking at your funds and you can then allocate those funds down to a product, down to a project, down to a program. And so you can do that type of actual funding. But what we're talking about here is really overall portfolio planning. We've also talked about, and we'll get into that a little bit later, is that overall delivery. So it's important to make sure that we understand where you need to invest. We need to understand our overall strategies and when they need to start performing some of our what-if analysis so we make the right investments. So the end result there is we'll be able to start doing some of this what-if scenario planning activities. And so that way we can actually then bring in those project proposals. We can look at our in-flight projects and we can start to assess those. We can start doing various scenarios. So if we wanted to do a scenario that focused on business growth, if we wanted to do a scenario focused on cost savings, or if we want to do a hybrid scenario, we can have multiple scenarios here in ServiceNow, and then you can compare those side by side to understand what the investment would be, but what's going to be the investment return, and you can start to compare that. And then from there, executives can make those decisions to pick the correct strategic plan and then move forward and focus on achieving those desired outcomes. As a part of that process, and this is a newer capability that just came out, is really helping you understand where are we spending those strategic dollars. So once we had actually identified that strategic plan and that strategic roadmap, we can actually then look at, even at the proposed project level, as well as the project level, we can align it to our strategies and start allocating and seeing kind of our overall spend. Because a lot of times organizations, they don't have that visibility. They can see all the projects and they can kind of see how it relates to a strategy, but they can't actually see, well, how much am I going to spend for digital transformation? And as well as what kind of a benefit am I going to have towards digital transformation? But by using the strategic spend tracking capabilities, you can answer those questions. Executives will have visibility into easily understanding for those different strategies. We're going to spend X across our current in-flight projects and our proposed projects, and we're going to expect to receive these benefits. And so, very powerful solution that can really start giving you visibility into areas where you can start receiving some budget savings. Next here, just kind of giving you a little bit more information around that what-if scenario analysis. And the key area here to think about in terms of finding those budget saving opportunities is this is really where we can start having that visibility so we can start saying no to certain initiatives or certain investment requests. Because we only have a limited amount of funds and we only have a limited amount of resources. So that's what we're able to balance here with our overall strategic portfolio planning, is we can look at all of the proposed work for the particular time frame. We can look at all of the in-flight work, and we can see what that's going to cost the organization. How does that parlay up against our overall budget? And then we can also get visibility into our overall resource capacity. We can also get visibility into kind of down at that role level or group level, where do I have overutilization issues today if we were to accept and implement this overall strategic plan with all these different projects. So that's what's really key, is not only do we want to make our strategic plan, but we want to be able to commit that we can actually deliver on the outcomes. And really, we can't have that commitment level unless we get that visibility into the resource capacity and utilization. So key capability here, when organizations are using this capability, they can actually confirm their selected portfolio, and then from there it will actually automatically approve your proposed projects, i.e. demands, and be able to then automatically create and fund those projects. Next here is kind of highlighting that top-down investment funding. So if you wanted to be able to look into ways to take your investment funds and be able to then allocate those funds across different parts of the organization, that's part of the power of the platform, because you might be managing products on the platform. You might be managing projects as we're talking here, but maybe I'm managing epics, and maybe I'm managing other agile development initiatives. I can actually fund those initiatives at that level versus just focusing on funding projects. So this type of visibility is really key. We see a lot of visibility here that CIOs really start to see the value of their investments and start to see the value of the usage of ServiceNow. Jason, did you want to share a couple examples for local CIOs that we both worked with that have seen a lot of value from the visibility and some of the different visualizations they get from ServiceNow?
I did. Thank you, John. Well, so I'll kind of start from a high level, and McKinsey says that they anticipate a $15.1 trillion impact to the global economy based on the pandemic. And as a result, organizations, be it government agencies, commercial businesses, through every vertical, are finding that their boards, their C-levels are being challenged more than ever to really justify where those investment dollars are going. Fewer investment dollars means higher justification and greater alignment to strategic initiatives. And so you mentioned CIO and COO, but here locally, a couple examples are our largest utility company and our largest healthcare payer. Both wanted to take a look at better management of their project and portfolio management across the enterprise, not just technology projects, but true enterprise portfolio management, the EPMO office. And as a result, the transparency, the proactive information to allow for better decision making has been recognized and applauded by folks that frankly had never really interacted with the Now platform. Roles like CFO, CEO, and as you mentioned, COO, and the amount of feedback that we've received from customers that frankly didn't have it in their top 3 of priorities heading into the pandemic, and then quickly had to readjust and move EPMO up on their priority list, the time to implementation, and most importantly, the time to value was very low, very condensed, and the titles of the folks that are receiving the value has been very impressive. And across the board, we've received just great feedback regarding the visibility and the insights that it's providing folks to be able to make the right decisions as those decisions are becoming more and more impactful.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jason. Yeah, we've definitely seen that impact and how organizations are seeing that value, that insight, and getting that visibility. It's amazing how when you start looking at that across the enterprise, and they start seeing some of the requests that are coming in across different levels of the organization, they can quickly spot and see areas where they don't want to invest. They can quickly see areas that they want to invest more because there's more alignment to their strategies, but also there's more benefit realization associated with those investments. And so I've seen that as a way to not require the delivery organizations to say no to things. It's actually top down. They start seeing and getting that visibility, just like we all do with our personal stock portfolio. We'll easily see where we need to shift or where we need to stop investing and move to another investment. So thanks so much, Jason, and we've enjoyed that collaboration with you and the ServiceNow solution with those customers. Next here, we've talked a little bit about having that strategic roadmap, being able to manage that overall investment. And so here's an example. This is the investment portal capabilities here within ServiceNow. It provides multiple functions here. One of those is looking at your roadmap and kind of understanding that investment roadmap. But it also provides you with the ability to kind of deep dive into your financials and really start to understand not only at a, say, a program portfolio level of your investments, but get down to the project or even at a financial category level. So you can start communicating with the CFO at that level to understand labor costs, non-labor costs. So you can understand the overall investments at that level as part of your overall strategic plan. Overall, what we see in terms of value creation, similar to what Jason was mentioning, there's a lot of opportunities to drive value. So these numbers here are illustrative, but especially in times like this where everyone needs to really justify their spend, there can be significant opportunities here. So this first area here is all about that value-based portfolio management. If we're focusing on understanding and estimating the business value, we're then focused on prioritization and making those decisions based upon that value in alignment to our overall strategies. That way we can optimize our investment in our different portfolios. Right? So we might have a portfolio around digital transformation. And yes, we still always need to have a portfolio around run the business. But how do we optimize those investments? So if we're focused on more on business value, one example would be we're going to help drive more revenue for the organization, because we're going to be able to provide that delivery service for our restaurant as an example, or we're able to provide that contactless entry and admission at the hospital, if you will. So different ways to drive business growth for the organization. The other hidden benefit here is the cost avoidance. Since we start focusing on business value, then we can avoid spending precious dollars and investments on those areas that aren't going to provide as much value for the organization. And that way we can focus our resources and dollars on those value-driven items. So that kind of gets us here into this second item here, focusing in on that cost avoidance. Because we're going to have that visibility in terms of the value, we can start assessing the risk of the different investments and then make those value-based decisions. And then last but not least, we can start looking at savings by using the platform, using the workflows and the automation. Also, there's built-in analytics. You can start understanding the overall backlog of items coming in. You can start understanding the throughput of your actual projects. That time to value gives you some of those insights. You don't have to have a separate reporting solution to do that. So that's kind of some of the common benefits and outcomes that we see with our customers. Here's another example for another organization and how they were able to utilize portfolio management to really help them understand what the work was. And then they were also combining that with demand management. So that visibility and transparency really helped to drive investing in the right areas. And so as we're mentioning here with our current theme of this webinar, gives you some really good insights into those projects you can immediately stop and then use that funding to focus on more strategic initiatives. And next, I wanted to highlight a little bit more around demand management. So portfolio management is really key because it really helps you optimize your investments in different parts of the business. But demand management is really key because it's actually an input into portfolio management. So this is where you could start off and do ideation here on the platform. So you could start off and look at ideas and look for the organization's feedback on what are the new products and services we should implement in the organization. What are those new process efficiencies or workflow automation opportunities we might have in the organization? And so you can support that type of ideation process. Once you give the organization the ability to kind of rate and rank those, then you can look at those and determine which one of those align to our strategic objectives, which one of those items would we want to then look at making those investments. And so that can be your upfront process. And then you can move into that more demand, that formal business case, once you understand that particular idea in greater detail and start making those plans.
If I may just make a observation on that last slide, John. One of the interesting things that I noticed in some of the implementations and workshops that you led here was that that ability to objectively prioritize across the enterprise. What we noticed as different project management offices were now uniting under a single platform, there wasn't necessarily a common understanding of how to prioritize projects at the highest level. And by going through this exercise and now having a technology that would do it at the enterprise level, they really gained by having those conversations and making some internal decisions and being objectively able to assign priorities to the different projects, whether they were technology related or not.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, that's really key. That's a core component here with demand management, as you've seen in our discussions and implementations there with customers. So with demand management, right, it's really trying to make sure that we align and categorize to those strategies. And like Jason said, we need to prioritize which ones based upon business value are going to give us the best return. But by having that visibility and being able to do that prioritization across all the different projects can really make sure that the organization's investing wisely for the ultimate best returns. Also, we also understand that you're going to have changes, right? We're going to create our overall strategic plan. We're going to be able to manage that demand coming in, and we're going to be able to do that prioritization. But as we are monitoring the market, as we are dealing with uncertainty, things are going to change on a month-by-month basis. How quickly can we change? How quickly can we get that visibility into our current roadmap, into our current status of our projects, understand what we've already invested, how close is it to actually being able to start reaping the benefits, so we can make those hard decisions when we need to shift, when we need to realign our investments based upon market conditions. So being able to do that is really critical. So here's an example of an organization where they're able to really kind of shift and start focusing on creating and actually utilizing solutions in the cloud so they could really address their digital transformation need. And I saw with the pandemic, many organizations, it wasn't no longer a digital transformation need, it was a digital imperative. They dramatically had to shift their organization. From a value creation perspective and demand, this is one of those areas similar to portfolio management, but this is one of those areas where you provide that visibility across the enterprise and you do that prioritization like Jason was mentioning. Just by giving that visualization and prioritization, the business unit executives start making decisions. They start saying no to different investments. And so as a delivery organization, we don't have to actually say no. We can focus on identifying the solutions, identifying the associated value, And in that way, the executives, based upon strategic objectives and insights, can prioritize and focus on those items that are going to drive the best outcomes. We've also found when we look at managing the portfolio and managing ideas and demands and managing projects, at the same time trying to manage your operational work, having one single platform, not needing integrations. Even in the PPM space, we see organizations where we come in that they're using multiple solutions today to manage project proposals versus projects versus resources versus time. Now you can use that all in one solution, as well as having the built-in analytics that can save tangible dollars just from rationalizing and consolidating some of your applications. And then last but not least, a key differentiator for ServiceNow is around the workflow automation. Next here, I just wanted to kind of highlight another example where they're able to actually use the workflow, be able to streamline that intake process, that ability to prioritize and to make those business decisions, reduce and eliminate some tools that weren't necessarily necessary anymore, and then really increase the efficiency and productivity of customers. Jason, any other customer examples you'd like to highlight here at this time?
Well, I would just say that you know, a lot of our use cases that we use tend to be you know, huge organizations, globally recognized names, and sometimes those don't resonate as well with our local market here. And I'm not too sure of the audience on the phone, but Hawaii's a pretty small place. Our largest commercial organization has annual revenue of about 3.7 billion. So in a lot of places that would be considered a mid-market. But you know, what we found is that the solution still makes a really strong business case for itself, even in what many would consider a mid-sized entity. And so we really think it's worth the time doing a little discovery with John's team. You know, there's no organization too small to be positively impacted by this technology.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. So next, what we want to focus on is how can we protect those investments through effective project delivery? How can we look to make sure that we can actually achieve that accelerating time to business value? So one is, first up, we can plan and we can decide where to invest. Rubber meets the road here when it comes to delivery, and how can we protect those investments? So ServiceNow has provided multiple ways to do that, and it's a key differentiator here because you can manage all different types of work. I think I mentioned earlier, you can manage your traditional waterfall, your agile, your safe, your hybrid. You can manage those different types of work here on the platform. So this is an example here coming in and managing your agile activities. But what's really key here, and we kind of see this highlighted right here, is that we understand, and ServiceNow has been very wise in this, that they understand that there's a lot of different types of work, and that work can be, say, your traditional project work or your traditional product development work or your traditional agile work. But a lot of that work actually comes from some of your operational activities. And so basically with one or two clicks, you can actually bring in all of your incidents, and you can create a story so you can put that in your backlog. You can pull in your enhancements. You can bring in service requests, and it'll automatically create a corresponding story. So your development teams, if you're doing agile, they'll be able to manage those agile stories or those safe stories just like they would any other story. But at the same time, they're going to have all that information, and so you don't have to do dual entry or swivel chair entry. So it's a great way to streamline the efforts and make things simpler for the organization, and that way really help driving that time to value. Next here, in terms of Agile, as we mentioned, you can do Agile and Safe here on ServiceNow. We recognize too that other organizations have invested in other Agile tools, and so there's out-of-the-box integrations with Jira and with Azure DevOps, but you can do everything here on the platform. We see more and more organizations that might have used some of those other solutions. They're looking for ways to standardize on one platform. Most organizations, if you've already have ServiceNow, most likely your ServiceNow development team is using ServiceNow's Agile development to put together their roadmaps and to be able to manage the backlog and to manage the execution and delivery of their projects. So what we've found here, and as you can kind of see here at the bottom, is an opportunity to really improve faster delivery of projects via ServiceNow using some of the Agile capabilities. But as I mentioned before, you're able to also manage that hybrid, because we know that the executives and the overall PMO, they still need to have that reporting with the financials and the resources, at the same time understanding the work that's being done. So that hybrid project management is really critical and a core differentiator here with ServiceNow. Also, looking for ways to simplify the work and be able to get more work done so that we can really focus on that value delivery and speed to market. So being able to manage that work here on your mobile device. So the same way you're doing your personal activities, you can also use the mobile device here to support the development activities. We talked about the need for hybrid project management, the need for reporting up to executives in the traditional fashion, and as well as allowing the teams to operate in their execution method of choice. And so that's the key differentiator here with ServiceNow, is being able to do that. What's also really nice in ServiceNow is you can take traditional work and you can actually create your own Kanban board type of view and manage that work like a Kanban board. So even organizations that aren't fully agile, they can actually take their traditional work and start managing that in a Kanban board. Also, what's really important here as part of project delivery, we need to understand who's working on the work. We need to understand their capacity. We need to understand other initiatives they might be working on, because there's going to be crunch periods where we need to make sure that we now shift a little and focus on one particular initiative because we need to get that value in for the commitments we've made to the street or commitments we made internally. And so having that visibility, understanding what the resources are working on, understanding how we can shift is really key as we're looking at delivering on those business outcomes. Also, when we look at it from a workflow perspective, we talked about ServiceNow being a workflow management solution. So we can look at managing that end-to-end project control lifecycle. So whether it be from risk to issues to decisions and actions. So that's set up there as a one kind of seamless integrated workflow. Here again, you can manage those individually, but it helps drive consistency, but it also helps drive overall protecting of your investment, to making sure that we focus on delivering the outcomes that were desired as part of funding this particular initiative. Last but not least, and definitely this is an area where I've seen savings being generated from organizations. Yes, time management is something that no one likes to do, but one power here on ServiceNow is you can track time against projects and non-project work all on the same platform here, all in the same interface. What I found with some organizations is they started doing time management because they thought that their team was overburdened with operational work. So we set that up so they could start tracking that work as well as their project work. And they quickly found that actually just by doing time management, they had the visibility to understand, you know what, we have extra operational capacity now that we can actually shift to more strategic project capacity and project delivery. So there can be some hidden benefits there by looking at time as well as looking at overall resource utilization. Also, other ways of looking at mobile, simplifying the work. We'll also highlight, I think, a little bit later how you can kind of have access to your mobile project status reports. So we have a nice example here of ServiceNow, and I've actually been on a few calls with Ronnie here on their case study and their usage of ServiceNow's PPM solution. So they actually use the PPM solution for their IT investments and their overall planning, and they use that with the Agile and the Scaled Agile framework as well. And so it's a really powerful combination so that her at the PMO level, she gets the visibility and the executives understand what their investment dollars are, but the team are able to actually develop and bring new products to market or enhance capabilities quicker. Jason, anything you'd like to mention here in terms of ServiceNow using the solution?
Well, I was just kind of in the last group of slides, the thing that popped out to me, and this goes back to my previous life with Gartner, I don't think it's unique to Hawaii, but in actual practice, a lot of organizations in managing projects tend to do a hybrid. They have some aspects that are agile and some that are traditional waterfall. And by doing hybrid projects, they're increasing more and more systems into the mix as to how to measure and track these things. So the ability to track the work, no matter which methodology you're using, and being able to report on it holistically has shown to be well received and high value to the customers that we have in actual production here.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, that is a critical differentiator. It can reduce, like you said, the number of applications that are required to support the work, and it can simplify and then provide that increased visibility that the C-suite's looking for. So thanks for your insights there. Next, I just want to talk a little bit about reducing some of the administrative burdens. You've probably seen throughout here, there's a lot of visualizations. There's a lot of out-of-the-box visualizations that you have, as well as a lot of out-of-the-box reporting. And so that really is going to reduce those burdens. We wanted to highlight a few of those items. We also wanted to highlight a couple of our custom solutions. So within ServiceNow and on the platform natively now, they have what they call performance analytics. This is ability for you to start trending overall project investments, project delivery over time. And so that can be really valuable for the organization to start understanding what's our overall performance trend look like, where are we typically having issues when it comes to on time, on budget performance, so we can protect our investments, just as one example. And so it's really giving you that visibility and historical trend out of the box. So that's very powerful. We see many organizations use that. It's also great because it allows you to do roll up and roll down reporting. So Jason mentioned from an overall enterprise PMO perspective, we can actually roll it up at the full enterprise level, or we can roll it down by business unit, or roll it down and just look at a particular portfolio and look at all those delivery metrics, as well as all of our planned investment costs, as well as our planned benefits and returns. So it's a great way to get that visibility and track that trending information here on the platform. Also, we kind of mentioned here, that's really streamlined in terms of doing status reporting. In addition to that, you can see here you have your mobile app for status reporting. So really, your project manager just needs to come in and put in, their narrative, what was accomplished this week, any information they want to highlight for management or executive attention, and the rest of the actual status report is auto-generated from just the day-to-day activities of managing your projects, managing your project controls, managing the resources, as well as managing the budget. So really simplifies that project status reporting, helps free up the project managers to focus on protecting that investment, focus on that delivery so that those outcomes can be achieved. Next, I just wanted to highlight a few of the kind of custom solutions that we built for customers. And these are based upon unique requirements. So we've had some that they're really kind of want to look at that overall strategic roadmap, but at the same time, they wanted to be able to report on that and be able to have an overall executive report at the high level as well as at the detailed level. And so this is an example where they can also slice and dice the information. What's nice with this is leveraging the app development platform within ServiceNow. So it's fully upgradable. And so it's kind of also showing additional value of the platform. Here's an example here of being able to automatically create a business case, have that print out, have that routed. And so that's another way of taking the information that everyone's going to enter into the system and presenting it in a nice graphical and overview. That way executives can easily review that as they're making those investment decisions. Next here is kind of a one-page status report. We also have two-page status reports here, as well as similar program status reports. So there's a lot of out-of-the-box status reports, and this here is what customers would really ask us for, is the ability to have that one-pager similar to the PowerPoint decks that many customers use as they walk through and look at status. But this way, let's reduce that effort. Let's simplify. Let's allow for those status reports to be auto generated and calculated, and then be able to actually save that off and include that in your PowerPoint presentations if you're going to continue to do it that way. So great capabilities here that are well received with our customers. Next is an example of kind of looking at, it's kind of highlighting the power of the platform. Another example of rolling up and rolling down information, but it's really around work management. So giving executives a chance to kind of look at overall operational work as well as project work, see what the trends are, and understand all the in-flight items, whether it be actual incidents or service requests coming in, whether it be actual demand and project proposal work, or actually in-flight project work. So another example here that our organizations have been able to achieve. So that kind of gives us the ability there to provide customers with increased speed and time to market, and reduce the amount of time they need for overall administrative efforts. And next, I wanted to highlight just a couple things about having a single platform to manage your work. I wanted to highlight this overall graphic here. I think it's a great graphic that ServiceNow has, and it really highlights how we can start aligning to those strategic goals and objectives, but recognizing that there's different types of work that need to occur in the organization. Now, this one here is kind of probably more IT-centric. You can still look at this as the overall enterprise, but just kind of wanted to highlight here. We did kind of review this previously, but you can look at, I can look at innovation and be able to do the ideation activity, then turn that into our actual business cases, looking at the demand pipeline, prioritizing, making those decisions, then looking at it in terms of our overall portfolio, making those investment decisions based upon products or services or applications, then be able to manage that hybrid. Most organizations are managing hybrid or waterfall or that agile or safe capability. And then being able to bring in all of that work in one place, don't have to, swivel chair or dual entry of that work, and be able to then manage that work, and then even tie it into DevOps and tying into overall, automation for deployment. We can see here too, is that overall service portal here, that can be the entry place to bring in those demand requests. That also can be where you've got your incident, your problem, your change request there from an IT perspective. So when you start thinking about one solution, you're not needing all these other products. You're not needing to support multiple integrations, as well as then you've got complete visibility when you're making some of these strategic decisions, because you also have visibility into your operational activities as well. So I'm going to pause there real quick, Jason, see if you have any comments you'd like to make, and then we'll get ready to close our session today.
No, I guess the only add is that, your own experience has said that probably 80% of organizations that you've helped with project portfolio management are actually starting here at the demand stage. Only about 20% have an active ideation methodology currently deployed within their enterprise. And that's rang true here for our local implementations as well. But the nice thing is that a lot of the folks we talk to want to get there. So if we take the crawl, walk, run approach, we can automate your current existing system and have room to grow into handling ideation and whatnot, which we think is going to become more and more important for organizations moving forward, to be able to systematize that ideation methodology as well.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Jason. We're seeing that 20% increase a little bit as people are moving towards more of a product-centric product management mentality, and then ideations coming into play. So thank you. So in terms of next steps, the question is, based upon our session today, I'd like to give you some insights into areas that you can identify to drive business value for your organization, whether that be through strategic value-based portfolio management, effective prioritization around demand management, whether that being able to support a hybrid, as well as being able to support a traditional or an agile or safe parts of your organization all on a single platform, being able to tap into automated performance analytics and status reporting and that overall visibility, so that the C-suite can make sure that the overall strategic objectives are being met and the outcomes are being achieved. So this kind of gives you an idea to think about where are the right places to start, where can you see the biggest benefit and value for your organization. In terms of quick ways to start, you can schedule your discovery workshop with us. We can kind of assess where you're at. We can give you a high-level roadmap to assist in achieving those outcomes. We can also schedule a demonstration where we can actually give you more details on the product and walk you through day in the life of doing strategic planning, managing your demands, managing that hybrid project delivery, as well as we partner well with Jason and team to do the ServiceNow business value assessment, and those are very critical. I'll let Jason talk briefly about that, because what we're focused on, and it's really great that you have a partner like ServiceNow. They're not only selling software, they're really focusing on selling value. And so their commitment to the customer is, let's assess and understand what the value can be, and then let's focus on delivering that value. And that fits nicely with our overall guiding principles, and our day-to-day activities is also around ensuring that value delivery. And then ultimately, you could schedule a call to discuss on implementation, or set up an engagement for implementation or advisory services. So Jason, anything you'd like to mention on the business value assessment before we close?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer and have a lot of conviction around the business value assessment. It is a series of questions that we ask about current measurements, and input them into our system, and it spits out what the ROI, what the hard dollar savings, what the ROI as far as time to payback. And the nice thing is that it's adjustable, right? At ServiceNow, we're a SaaS company, so we have to continue earning your business, or you'll just move on to the next best solution. And so we really hold ourselves to a high level of trying to deliver a minimum of 5 times ROI for every dollar you spend with us. But we realize that some folks aren't going to feel comfortable going to their board and presenting a 5 times ROI on the project. So we run through the business value assessment, we see what it spits out, and then, based on conversations with John, the customer, et cetera, we adjust it to somewhere where the customer is comfortable. And we've seen a majority of our customers actually incorporate this business value assessment into their executive committee approvals internally to help justify the project. And it's at no cost.
Yes, thank you, Jason. I totally agree. It's a great model that you have there, and it's an opportunity to iterate that and provide that right justification for the customer. And then both ServiceNow as well as our delivery services, or even managed services, focused on helping you achieve that. So we appreciate everyone joining our session today.